Afternoon, it's Matthew Holt. I am the host of the THCB Gang, and it is the December 17th, one before Christmas edition. And I am your host for the THCB Gang. My colleagues are all with me. I'm going to introduce you as to who they are in a second. So, now I have to figure out, I've done the sharing a little bit wrong. I'll figure it out from the list. Starting on my screen anyway, we're going to go live. I have Deb McGraw from Citizen. She's looking very festively attired. The only person, with the exception of Jess Damasio, who dressed up. So I'm not sure Jess dressed up, just in a background. Mike McGee, medical historian, Rosemary Day, CEO and author. By the way, both Mike and Rosemary have had books reviewed on THCB, which has, the rest of you don't need to work on it, although the rest of you, most of you have got books, even if Mike was really old. Maggie Carey from Washington, D.C., physician coach from the Carey Group Global. Jess Damassa, my co-host of Health in 2.0 and the host of WTF Health. Michael Millicent, a patient safety expert. Robin Farmanfarmaian, patient as co-founder, not CEO of Face Touch Aware and all kinds of other stuff and speaker. And Marcus Whitney from Jumpstart Capital now, no longer Jumpstart Foundry. And I'm sure he'll tell us a bit about what's happening to him today, tomorrow, soon anyway. There's some exciting news in Marcus's life. Second time Marcus has been on, so we don't give him the pleasantry of being a guest anymore. We now just throw him into the mire. All right, so let's start off. It is the last week of the year. We've finally gone full Brady Bunch. Deb's been asking for this, I think, for months now. All nine of us. So we're going to have to be good and be not talk over each other too much.
Full Brady Bunch and full Hollywood Squares.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, both of them. I forgot about that. Yeah. Okay, so Maggie, in my view, unless it's the one that actually goes out, you're the X in the middle. So we'll start with you.
What would you like to know?
I'd like to know what you think about the world, the universe, the year, and this week.
Oh, how novel. So interesting. I'm waiting to see how CDC gets rebuilt.
That's a short one. Mike, what's your thoughts on the week?
Well, I think everybody nowadays is talking about the fact, and there's no disagreement, I don't think, that our democracy has been stress tested. I think the real debate is how far do we need to go to hold accountable the people who did the stressing? And what will that decision do to the future of our democracy? Is it enough to just say, let's all get along now, or do we need to hold people accountable?
What do we call the Republicans? A bunch of Fs. All right. Rosemary.
I would say this is the week of doing the vaccine happy dance. Literally happened. It went viral. Boston Medical Center had a bunch of folks dancing to a song by Lizzo. But any of the groups I'm working with, they are literally, verbally doing that. It is a huge relief to the frontline folks that this is coming. And I think it's giving the rest of us hope, even though we are, here in Boston, buried in a foot of snow and facing the dark part of the winter. This is the bright spot, and it's huge.
It is an amazing story for sure. We'll come back to that. Yeah. Devin, what's your thoughts on the last week or so?
Yeah, I would say between the vaccinations beginning and the Electoral College actually doing its thing on Monday, as we expected, it's turned out to be a very good week. I am probably alone on the panel and being super excited that we have a proposed HIPAA rule, which was at the end of last week.
I knew you were going to say that. I'm glad I've won money on that.
Why I am the geekiest person on this panel that would be. I mean, I've been waiting for that thing for months. So
you have the best headgear, no doubt, and you're going to explain to us later why that's going to make so much of a difference. All right, who have we not got to yet? Robin.
So I am just so incredibly happy about the incoming administration's diversity. So if you see, like, every day they name new people to the new administration and they are not old white men. And it's just amazing. Sorry, Matthew.
And
So
Michael,
there's a couple of old white men on here. In fact, a couple of them are older than me. No, weren't pointing fingers anyway. All right. Talking about old white men, Michael.
Great beer, please. That's wisdom. Obviously, the vaccine, but I think to me, I'm worried that all the divisions in the country are going to be reflected in how the vaccine is rolled out, and then we have multiple vaccines and everything else. And the people running the country from now until January 20th are really good on divisions. So I think that as happy as this week was, God knows what surprises we're going to get from Trump, Stephen Miller, and all the rest. Although to be fair, diversity in the Trump administration means that whether you're white, black, young, old, male, or female, you can be a nut job. So I feel that the Trump administration did a really good job of showing us that we shouldn't have interest group politics.
I think you have to be rich too.
Yeah, that helps. So I'm with that. And just like I love the HIPAA rule, which I'm going to have Devin explain, because I looked at it and couldn't figure out whether I was supposed to be enthusiastic or think the special interests were winning. So I'll have you explain that to me, Devin. We may get legislation on surprise medical bills that will depend on whether Mitch McConnell is influenced more by Humana or the local hospitals. So I'm waiting. I'm waiting to see which of his constituencies who are rich and powerful Mitch McConnell is going to come down on the side of.
Who paid more? Well,
that's right.
Last week we thought it was the nursing homes because of the the absence of liability, or the demand for no liability in the stimulus legislation. Jessica, by the way, you are not a misfit toy. Don't let anybody say that about you.
No, but Matthew, as you can see behind me from the scene unfolding, I am live at the Isle of Misfit Toys, where Yukon Camellia and Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer have just arrived, breaking the 9-month quarantine of the toys here on the island. You can see the panic in the toys behind me, none of them wearing masks, trying to social distance. Utter chaos here from the land of Misfit Toys.
Hang on, did Rudolph bring the vaccine or not?
No, he's bringing Corona. This is like
surely if you're a misfit toy, you should have high priority.
Look at the chaos here behind me. Okay, so the bit of news that I'm excited about this week is the one that tanked Teledax stock. Amazon Cares. All of a sudden, we find out that they are looking for customers. They have a sales force out there trying to attract some business, and it's got a telehealth component to it. Oh dear God, everybody who just pivoted to become a digital front door startup is quickly wondering how they're going to find the exit with all of these digital front doors. So yeah, I think that is going to be the news that shapes 2021 for a lot of health tech companies.
All right. Marcus, tell us about what you've been saying the last week or two, and then tell us your news.
Well, I want to start with just the absolute joy that I get thinking about the vaccine and talking to my friends in the healthcare system. I don't care that other people have said it. It needs to be said over and over again. This is the beginning of the end. We don't know when the end is, but at least we know this is the beginning of the end. And that is so awesome. Because I feel like one of the darkest feelings I had was when this whole thing started, depending on where you were in the country, January, February, March, just people not understanding how long this was going to be, and I think those of us who are in the industry and who had inside information and knew this was going to be a really long run. I would say that the flip side of that is I live in Tennessee, and Tennessee is, we're breaking all sorts of records right now, specifically in the rural parts of our state. Where they have the least resources to actually fight COVID. And, it is mostly based on misinformation and lack of mask wearing. And so, that's sort of the two sides of the coin, right? Just super excited about the vaccine and just worried that we're not out of this. So that's that. In terms of my news, I'm raising a new fund that I probably shouldn't even be on this call with you all, because I should be working on getting it closed. It's closing tomorrow. It'll be a pretty groundbreaking fund. Can't say that much about it, but I can say it'll be a groundbreaking, diverse, focused healthcare fund. I can say that.
You should come on my show and tell me all about it.
I'd be happy to.
Live poaching on the. Well, congrats on getting that done, Marcus. I know it's raising a fund is really tough in the best of times, and during a pandemic makes it very interesting. All right. Well, my take on the week is going to be that 60 Minutes had a very odd session, which they went at the. They had a session on the show on Sunday night about the Sutter fine, the Sutter Health fine of $575 million. And it was very bizarre. It was clearly filmed about a year ago, just after the whole thing had happened. Right. And they didn't mention COVID. They didn't mention the fact that Sutter had tried to actually get out of paying the fine because they said it was poor from COVID. They didn't talk about what had happened to the hospitals in the last 9 months. And then after this, but it basically came out and said, well, all of us have already said, which which is the hospitals have been essentially price gouging and charging a lot more based on consolidation, based on their market monopoly position over the last several years, the last decade or so, and the Sutter was kind of the poster child. And Javier Becerra, who's going to be the new HHS secretary and current California Attorney General, was sort of behind the lawsuit. So that was, I think, why it came out on that particular day. I just thought it was very weird that they ran something that was like, we hadn't noticed that there'd been a year of incredible change while it happened. But nonetheless, also to mention the fact, and I raised this last week, that I've been totaling up, if you total up the total cash available in the reserves of all the major hospital systems, we're approaching kind of Apple/Google's type cash mountain. It's probably a couple of $100 billion around there. And I'm looking forward to seeing how that flows and how that plays out as the world changes. Anyway, let's start with the vaccine. Hang on, Rosemary, you're diving in already.
Well, I just want to say, I think we all forgot, or we didn't mention one big thing, which is there may be a COVID relief package being hatched. I mean, that's today's news. So, well, I mean, given what Marcus said about all the folks who are struggling, I mean, that is, aside from the vaccine, that is causing, the vaccine will mitigate so much, but the economic devastation and the disproportional impacts of that is huge. And we have absolutely got to solve this at the individual level, my view. Yeah.
So Matthew, so did you read one of the analyses about why that's happening? It's because of the election in Georgia, that the people in Georgia are unhappy that there is not going to be any kind of economic stimulation. So that's why Mitch McConnell got off his duff. It's not because he suddenly turned kind and gentle and humanitarian.
All right, so it's good to see the politics still matters a little bit.
It doesn't matter. I'm happy for it. It's just that don't fool yourself.
No, I'm happy for it too. Don't misunderstand. I just think it's the epitome of every little bit helps. It's a little bit, not a lot.
It's a little bit. Yeah.
That's right.
Right.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about that, because that does actually some implications for the healthcare system as well, right? In that money, there's going to be another $25 billion of CARES dollars released for hospitals. A lot of criticism about how the first chunk happened. There's a lot of criticism about the rest of that funding, the PPP, as to where that went. I mean, Kanye West got a couple of million, which perhaps he didn't allegedly need.
I'm just going to say.
Sorry, say that again, Jeff. He missed it.
I said he's had a tough year.
Well, I understand he won the presidential election in some people's view.
I mean, Trump. Both of them.
But what do we think about the implications of this for the healthcare system, for what's going on? I guess I'm particularly interested to notice that we've had this year now. We've been all the way through it. We're now at a point where ICU beds in California and other places are starting to fill up. You've got ICU beds full in many. We're right. Maybe I don't know if we're at the height of the peak of the wave, or it's going to get worse, but it's certainly not in good shape. So I guess that my question is, what do we think the impact is going to be for the next few months while we, simultaneously trying to vaccinate people?
Well, I can jump in. I know that the hospitals in my area are having to push off so-called elective procedures, which makes it sound like that's the, plastic surgery or something, but it isn't. It's folks who've got cancer and need surgery, but it's not like they're going to, they don't need it tomorrow, but they do need it soon. And so the fact that that's getting pushed off again in our region, and we had bent the curve, and now it has a human cost, and it also has a fiscal reality to the hospitals that are going to need some kind of supplemental funding, particularly those that serve the underserved. They aren't going to have their money makers because they've absolutely got to just make COVID top priority. And so to have to go through that again means they're going to need some more funding, because that bridged them till we bent the curve. And now here we are again in the second surge.
I think, Matthew, one of the things to watch is just the logistics management and the marketing. When I was at Pfizer, which was right before Viagra was released, one of the things that people forget is that within 5 days, worldwide, they had branded Viagra in every drugstore around the world. Because that's their strength. They are world-class marketing and supply chain distribution managers. On the science side, they get a hold of products like the vaccine through recognizing other people who've invented things and forming a partnership early. Why do those people form partners with them? Because Pfizer has a reputation for supply chain management and distribution. So one of the things that's worth watching in the next couple of weeks is how successful they are in actually spreading what is kind of a fragile product around the world. And what does Trump's grudge holding, as well as the entry of new competitors, due to Pfizer's interest in being both profitable and altruistic, or appearing altruistic? So I'm waiting to see how much more in time, energy, blood, and sweat and tears Pfizer decides to invest in getting their product into the hands of the people who need it the most.
So, Mike, it's a great point. Although when you talked about marketing, I thought, given how cold the Pfizer vaccine has to be, I thought maybe they would have the beer ads and show the train coming down and go, get your ice cold vaccine now, fresh. But what I was wondering about is in terms of marketing, right? So we know that some people are reluctant to have the vaccine, and you could say this is a product that sells itself. Take our product or die. But obviously it's not working that way. And
Right.
I have not read anything about, other than, going to community groups and things like that. I've not read anything about TV ads and the kind of place that are any marketing campaign the way a pharma company would, that the government would sponsor anything. And it could be because Trump figures him just saying it's here, is great. Have you heard anything about attempts to market to people to do this, or are they saying, we don't have enough anyway, it'll just all work itself out?
Well, as you know, Michael, at least historically, Big Pharma has been reluctant to do disease-specific marketing campaigns. I mean, a long time ago, I tried to sell various companies on the notion of giving grants to the various different appropriate medical and nursing foundations to support disease education marketing. And the idea being that, hey, if you had a leading product in a category and people understood a disease and came to the doctor to see it, you would benefit just as much as if you were, having two people in a bathtub saying that they're, going to get it on. But they never bought into that. They really felt that their products were in competition with their brand name. So Pfizer would consider the hypertensive Norvasc to be in competition with the Pfizer bullet itself. And the marketing people would fight to make sure that the focus remained on the specific product that they were trying to sell. So in this case, they're not used to actually marketing that you need to come in, you need to get your vaccine, it's safe and it's good public service and it's going to help your neighbor and your friends. That's not the type of thing they've historically done. Now, could they hire people to do it? Sure, but I'm not sure they'll enter into that. Maybe they'd fear that that would open a crack and force them with their primary businesses to move in that direction, which they don't want to do.
Yeah, just to jump in a second before, and then we'll go to Maggie. Pfizer's actually had a press release out today. There's some fight going on, and one of their press releases out today mentioned that that they haven't had they have vaccines sitting in the factory or wherever it is in the distribution line. They haven't had instructions as to where to deliver it. So we're at the point now where it's just going to healthcare workers. Maybe it'll get seen to the next point of going to the elderly or people in long-term care facilities, but we're a way away from that.
Yeah.
Maggie, you hopping in? I thought you.
Oh, and
I think I was just moving my hands.
All right. We'll get you some heating over there. Robin.
so looking at it from a marketing point of view, there's no reason for any of the pharmas to market their vaccines because this is a public health crisis and marketing is expensive. Right? So first of all, they've got that scarcity. So there's no reason to market to anything. The healthcare workers, the frontline workers, everyone who wants a vaccine, and they've been doing publishing studies. I think it was like 71% of Americans right now think they probably will get the vaccine. So they don't have to market to any of those people. Once they run out of those people, it's going to be a public health marketing campaign because it's going to be all about getting those people who are anti-vaxxers to actually step up and get vaccinated. In addition, we're going to start to see that vaccine passport, or that, okay, if you want to go on a transatlantic flight, you need to have been vaccinated, or we need to see these number of tests in a row done where you're negative. And so it's going to start to become detrimental for somebody to not have had the vaccine.
But let's talk about the government marketing. So if you're starting to roll it out, right, to nursing homes, right? So there's the article on page 1 of the New York Times today talking about some people not taking it. I'm sorry, I wasn't clear, but not the pharma companies, but the government as it rolls it out to people to make sure that all the healthcare workers take it, all the right, so that you have that kind of establishing cultural norms, those kind of ads that show people we're all of this together, and you do that from the beginning. But I guess that would take CDC and other people to,
I think who's going to end up happily jumping in is going to be CVS and Walgreens and Walmart. The same people who market the flu shot, that's who's going to end up marketing this when it becomes a consumer thing. Right. And they're going to have no problem with that. No problem at all. Just like UPS and FedEx had no problem jumping in to ship these things.
Yeah, well, I think that's true. And I think, Robin, your comments suggest that we actually have a national public health capacity and that we strategically plan on a national level and that we would therefore in our plan execute public education and encouragement. But if that were true, we wouldn't be in the mess we're in. We've got
a new administration coming in. So the game changes January 20th, right? And before January 20th, the vaccine is going to still be extremely scarce.
Well, yes, but we have a 7 or 80 year tradition of doing the exact opposite of strategic health planning. So just because Biden's in there doesn't mean that we're going to build that capacity. That's a multi-year, if not a multi-decade effort. And I mean, it's got to begin at some point, but I don't expect to see national leadership that's going to get us out of this mess. You're right, Jess, I think, and it's sad to admit it, but we'll have to rely on PBMs and CVS and the rest of them because they're going to make money at this and they'll be in with both feet.
Yep. So public, I'm on the board of the Berkeley School of Public Health, and public health has been underfunded for decades. CDC, it didn't just happen overnight that CDC went in the tank. And it's like you said, Mike, it's going to be years, if not decades, to bring this back. And we've never had a cohesive plan for public health because public health is sort of like a clean house. Nobody comes in your clean house and says, great clean house. What they say is it's filthy and dirty. Nobody comes in and says, hi, you've got clean water. What they do say is it's icky and it's got bugs in it. So we've got a long way to go.
I want to bring a couple of things to get in here. Robin mentioned these passports. There was an article from Scott Schreiber, Crossover Health, which is the clinic that, to link back to what Jess said earlier, is doing a lot of stuff with Amazon about how they have developed a messaging system for have you got the vaccine, have you got the antibodies? And he thinks there'll be, there'll be sort of interesting stuff around, having to show your antibody and your continued resistance going into the future. At the same time, as Michael pointed out, Devin has been reading 800 pages of HIPAA regulations. And correct me if I'm wrong, Devin, the main difference now is that your data, that instead of you having to ask for your data and kind of opt into getting your data, organizations have to opt out from giving it to you. Is that the main change in what's going on, or am I completely wrong?
No, I don't know where you got that.
I got that from a talk. I got that from a talk you gave last month, but I may have not understood what
No, well, information blocking. The information blocking rules are all about, we're going to give you this information whether you necessarily want it or not, and which, by the way, I'm okay with, because it's it's basically it's put in it's made available to you via an API. So if you don't want it, you can decide you're never going to open that account. You're never going to connect anybody to it. So it's not. It's not as forced as that may have sounded. HIPAA is all about, like, if you ask for it, can you get it? And, some of the proposed changes are about, like, clarifying when, when you're using a personal health app, it's just like you asking for that information for yourself. You're not saying, oh, I'm sending it to a third party, right? You're sending it to an app on your own behalf. They made that clarification. They have proposed shortening the time frame from 30 to 15 days, which I think folks in the tech sector would really laugh at, because 15 days is still pretty long to get somebody health information that you should be able to really get within 24 hours. But to go from 30 to 15 days for paper records and digital records is a not insignificant proposal. There's a lot of other proposals in there that are not actually about the right of access at all, but are about, making sure that, for example, health plans, when they're doing care coordination and care management, they can get all the data they need to be able to do that. They would enjoy an exemption from the minimum necessary rules in the same way that treating providers have today. And then there are some clarifications around sharing with friends and family in terms of trusting doctors to make those decisions about whether that information should be shared, and when you can share information in the case of an emergency in order to avert a serious threat to health or safety. So it's a lot of sort of tweaks, many of which I was aware of as issues when I was still at OCR. So in many respects, it's sort of surprising that it took 4 years to get to the point of sort of proposing some changes that, frankly, the office has been considering for quite some time, but it's still worth people taking a look at it. I guess I'll mention one more thing, which is not only do you have the right as an individual to get a copy of your information, but if all you really want is to make sure that it gets sent to your next doctor, you can use your right of access to do that too, and to force that data to be shared, as opposed to saying, the provider saying, well, maybe I'll share it and maybe I won't. So,
do you think any of this is going to impact, Devin, on the sort of this idea of having a passport, the idea about having, having a vaccination card? I mean, a paper card in a sort of post HIPAA era sounds a bit crazy. And there are people, obviously, who've got apps on the phone and other ways of doing this.
Well, in the same way that we still have fax machines, even though we have significant electronic medical record penetration in this country, like we probably will end up on paper at first, but for an individual, like, you're going to need to be able to get the data from a clinical source to prove you've been vaccinated. So whether you get your vaccine at a pharmacy, whether you get your vaccine at your healthcare provider, that data is going to need to be in there so that some app or some service, or even just you pressing a button and printing it out, can actually show documented proof that you've been vaccinated in a circumstance where you're required to present it. So it does have something to do with it, right? How easy is it for you to get access to that data so that you can then do with it what you need to?
Rosemary.
I was going to say, I love the idea of a vaccine card that would actually be an electronic version, right? But I think that it's going to take more than, so we think about transatlantic flights and these like lovely things we would love to be doing, but that that's only a portion of our population. I think it's got to, and there's going to be rock concerts and things that, regular folks are going to want to be able to go to, and I think choir. So you're going to start to penetrate to like the thing that people want to do. But I read a really compelling piece by Elizabeth Rosenthal in the New York Times recently, where she said, we just got to scare the bejesus out of people. She said, do you remember those ads when we were kids? Well, some of us were kids, that were to get us to not take up smoking. And she painted the image, with words that brought me back to like that film strip. Actually it was a video that I saw in second grade, I think, where people were had throat removal, and the person was actually smoking through a hole. It was horrifying to see, frankly, and it scared, and I had completely forgot about it, but it scared a lot of people, and it had an impact from the public. It was a government-sponsored public health initiative, and so anyway, I was thinking, she's right. There's an aspect of this that isn't just, hey, I want my passport so I can go places. It's like, no, there's folks who need to see what it looks like to be on a ventilator. And when you read the obituaries, sorry, but I do read those. And people are making that plea, they're buying space in obituaries, say, please wear a mask. They want to share their story. There's a really human component to this that needs, so maybe scaring people isn't quite right, but honestly, that's going to get people's attention.
Real quick, I agree completely on the scary, and that's kind of what I was talking about, marketing the vaccine and getting people to take it. But I have to say, as much as I'm sympathetic to, we've seen some of the columns about it being paper, the fact is the paper certification they did in 1918 was an era before you could have forgeries that were so sophisticated that nobody could tell the difference. So, on the one hand, we're talking about blockchain use for electronic certification, which I think makes a lot of sense. And you're just going to open up if you need some sort of, it's going to be like 18-year-olds, like 16-year-olds trying to prove they're old enough to drink. I mean, yeah, come on into this rock concert. Look at 100% of the people, all of them are vaccinated. In fact, they were all vaccinated by the same doctor on the same day, all 20,000 of them. Wow, what an amazing coincidence.
Sounds like medical marijuana.
I think there's some problems.
So let me jump in. So I think that we've said a lot about this, and there's going to be a lot of activity around vaccination, improving it, and all the rest of it. Some of it we were very hopeful at the start. Now we're terrifying people. Want to change the topic a little bit. It has been an interesting week on the funding side. We've had a lot of Jess and I did the Health Newport show the other day, and yet another sort of $600 million show just in terms of companies across the board getting funded. The stock market continues to go up, whether Amazon is going to get involved in health tech or not. And yet, as we mentioned, there may be a small stimulus package, but not a big one. What do we think is the impact of the sort of the post-COVID, post-vaccine world in terms of funding for new health tech? So I want to drag Marcus in here and Jess and Robin to talk about this a bit.
Would love to talk about that. I do want to just say one final thing on the last conversation.
We can't get people off the vaccine. Do that, but then do the next.
Look, I was being too nice. I didn't get to say anything. So I have no solutions, but I do think solutions are better developed and designed when we have a full, a full description of the problem. And 2020 has given us, very, very good experiential data to work with in terms of what we're going to face next year. One, we're going to face the fragmented responses from the states. That's already happening. I can tell you what the governor of Tennessee is going to do is not at all what the governor of New York is going to do. And I heard that plan this morning. So, it's like you're already solving for multiple rollout scenarios. Communicating across phases is very difficult. Like, I shudder to think about how bad the rollout of phases of stay in place orders versus going out and this passes, now we can have half-filled restaurants. It's kind of the same thing with this vaccine in terms of like what population gets to use it when. I mean, these are not going to be static dates. They're going to be based on a certain penetration. And so I don't know how you communicate that effectively. And then maybe the most important thing, especially when we're talking about marketing, is like anti-vaxxers are not anti-vaxxers, like, you know, people who are disgruntled with the government are not people who are disgruntled with the government, right? Like specifically, if you're talking about the African-American community, their issue is Tuskegee. And like, you're not going to scare them with like, you know, the same thing that you would naturally scare, you know, white people with. So, you know, they're talking like President Hildreth at Meharry, who's an immunologist, you know, is saying, I'm going to be first because I'm a prominent Black physician who is an immunologist, very big in HIVs, and I know what's going on. So you're going to have to find that person in many, many different communities who's trusted, who can overcome real legitimate trauma, not like anti-vaxxer stuff. I'm talking legitimate stuff, you know, that where people have a real cause to be wary. I'm not saying it's real. I'm saying we need to get the vaccine, but just understand it's a very complicated thing when you factor in states, the phased rollout, and then the fact that the actual marketing has to be culturally, you know, relevant and appropriate.
Yep.
As far as the funding, the Olive funding is absolutely astounding. I don't think people understand like what a big deal that is. That kind of funding does not happen in health tech. I mean, did you want to say something about this, Matthew?
Yeah, just to let people know what Olive does, because it's kind of interesting as how much they raised, and where they are in the system. And you know, it's a problem I thought I'd solve, but apparently not. Say a bit more.
Yeah. So Olive is an AI platform specifically designed for health systems. They combine computer vision and robotic process automation. They've been around since 2013. The previous name of the company was Crosschecks. They're now Olive. And, you know, they started with like Drive and Khosla Ventures, and then I think Memorial Care got in, and then Ascension got in. But this year, across 3 rounds, they've raised almost $400 million. And the names that are in now is Google Ventures, Sequoia, General Catalyst. They just did an acquisition of a company that Bessemer was in. So this is like VC Death Star kind of thing, right? Okay, you know, you do not, and really important, $400 million is not the same as $400 million raised through PE or raised through an IPO. This is $400 million of VC dollars. So the VC return profile is 8 to 10x. So, you know, this is like super jet fuel market opportunity, you know, very, very aggressive. And it's really interesting that a lot of people don't know who they are, what they're doing. You know, they're not making a ton of waves. I'm tracking the press releases, obviously, but that to me, you know, just for comparison, Livongo did not raise that much. Teladoc did not raise that much in venture. You know, now their total raised, if you look, once they get to IPO, it gets into those numbers, but prior to that did not raise that much. You know, their post-money valuation is 1.5 billion. So if you just 10x that, you're looking at, you know, a trajectory towards $15 billion, right? The Teladoc Livongo merger, what did that end up with? 8 billion?
18.
No. It was like 16, 17. It was around that, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
The acquisition in the end, yeah.
Yeah. So you're looking in that direction, right? You know, you're looking in that direction. What that signals is coastal VCs have played around the edges in healthcare. They've learned from making mistakes, right? They learned through Elizabeth Holmes and some other mistakes, and now they're getting to like real stuff. They're getting into real stuff that actually can make real money, real stagnant market opportunities. They've figured that out. They figured out how to partner with the health systems and actually collaborate. So now they have real experts on the inside. And this, to me, I think is just the first of several things we're going to see. You know, I think you're going to see more and more and more dollars entering in health IT, digital health, and tech-enabled services. And I think you have to also marry this up with the United, investor 2-hour presentation. You know, Dave Wickman, you don't have to watch the whole thing, just the first 20 minutes. But it's pretty clear that they're ready to go now. You know what I mean? They've been building the bench strength. They've been building the Optum machine, and they're ready to go. And we're going to see. I think we're going to see the dollars like double and triple. You know, in the next 2 years, it's going to be incredible.
I like it. I mean, after I want to get Jess in about some other venture stuff, but I think the other thing is very interesting because it is right at the core of like what the hospitals have they done for years and years and years and years, and apparently haven't done very well if there's this massive opportunity to fix it. And what does that make it? What is there were some numbers out yesterday about the overall health size of the economy. I think hospitals are now $1.2 trillion in terms of the money being. What happens to the hospital sector with these types of different players in them? I mean, are Optum and the Amazons going around them? Are they going to be sort of stripped from within by these types of companies? I mean, do we have some speculation about that?
Well, one of the things, Matthew, that should be balanced up on what Marcus is saying is we've got 12 states that still have not done Medicaid expansion. And there's offline discussions going on with a couple of them, which are obviously red states, about preemptive engagements with the Biden administration. Why? Because all of these states are in rough and worsening financial shape. And they have large populations that have not been covered by Medicaid and yet are uninsured as well. So there is the possibility that we're going to see some innovative new approaches that might look more like grants that test out Medicare for all kind of methodology versus traditional Medicaid expansion, or sort of a Medicare for all that kind of is dressed up to look like entrepreneurial public-private. So if that stuff is going on at the same time that venture is pouring in and we're getting new sorting of who's partnering with whom, all of that might get bundled together in some of these red states.
Jess, you were going to say something about funding as well?
Yeah, I actually, so I talked to the captain of the Death Star himself, Sean Lane, the CEO of Olive. I have a 30-minute interview with him that will be coming out early next week. So Marcus, you're going to want to sit down and get some popcorn and dig into that. Some of the numbers on them that I thought were really interesting, 600 hospitals are deployed in, and this whole AI healthcare workforce that they've built. Matthew, to your question about like how broken is this healthcare admin process, like this is they're tackling that 1 out of every $3 spent on healthcare in this country is for admin expense. They're tackling that by way of 1,600 different back office processes that are right now being done with like a spreadsheet, a fax machine, and a paperclip. So they've got a lot of room to grow. And I think what's really compelling about them, Sean outlined his 5-point plan for like complete world domination. I'll tease it here for you guys. This is the big story for me. Phase 3 of this, they're going to start instant paying claims. So they're going to build in the AI where it's going to know what's going to get denied, what's not going to get denied, teach the Olives how to do it, and they're going to start instant paying claims. So some of these startup companies, I think, are starting to look more like, I don't know, weird hybrids of, different incumbent organizations. And they're taking what they know about technology and really doing more than just digitizing. It's like using the technology to win the game instead of just keep score or update, a paper record to an EMR record. I want to say one other thing real quick before Mike jumps in here and rips me apart. I want to say about funding for next year that I think that, I agree with Marcus a lot. And I've been just seeing anecdotally, a lot of different people who are trying to come in who are not in healthcare and they've never invested in healthcare businesses before. And they're like, what do we need to know to get smart on this right now? So I actually, as frothy as this year was, I think the money for next year is just going to be unbelievable. And so I think we are going to see through the roof rounds, more rounds this year already. Matthew, how many $100 million rounds have we seen? I mean, too many to count.
It's like 3 or 4 a week.
Right? A week. And this used to be, for comparison, it was like once every quarter, maybe. So, I mean, we've multiple rounds, like we saw Olive, like a triple axle of funding in 1 year. That's crazy. I teased Sean. I'm like, you got one more in you? You got a week and a half here, buddy. But I mean, I think we're going to see that pace jack up. We're going to see M&A, some of these smaller startups get acquired, so exit that way. This year we learned a new word. We learned a new trick, how to SPAC. So now we're going to see more SPACs next year, I think. And that's going to help a lot of those investors who are not used to healthcare get into our space and throw some more capital in that way. And I think too, the last thing, we're going to continue to see some really totally off investments. Like, I will never forget my WTF moment for this year was these $735 million thrown into fitness mirror companies. 735 million total across 4 companies for mirrors. Yeah, I will never forget that for as long as I live.
All right, Michael.
So I want to try to bring together a few threads. No jumping. I love what you said. I was hoping that Rudolph would somehow fit into this, but I guess not. Although, so I want to go to the Medicaid thing, then I want to go to the technology. When the Affordable Care Act came out, and then when Obama was up for re-election in 2012, I wrote a piece saying that the ACA was good for white people, which got taken down by Forbes.com as being racist. What I did, I said, look, the people who were against it, often in the red states, the subtext was that it was helping Blacks, Hispanics, et cetera, disproportionately, which of course was true in terms of percentage. But if you look at the numbers of people who are uninsured, particularly it's poor whites. And I think what you're seeing now finally with the Medicaid is now that Trump has left and it doesn't become politically incorrect in the conservative cancel culture to acknowledge reality, they're going to come and they're going to do something on it. The other thing is to go with what Jess talked about, the statistic which we've known for 20 years is 1 in $3 are wasted, not just admin, but overuse, underuse, and misuse. But the other thing that we brought up earlier was the amount of money that hospitals have in their endowments, et cetera. And the real question is all these AI, et cetera, companies are offering us efficiency, right? But what happens to the savings? And after looking for many years, I think that people underestimate the ability of managers of small nonprofit hospitals like, UPMC or Sutter or other small nonprofit places like that to make money and to adjust. And so, when DRGs came out in the 80s, it was, this is going to cause efficiency and we're going to do this. And you can, all the things that were supposed to force the healthcare system to become efficient that haven't. And so they may become more efficient, but whether that results in the money coming down to us or whether that results in more atriums being built is a real question. And the one tell here, right, is we were talking about surprise medical bills. One of the players in the surprise medical bills is private equity firms, right? So the private equity firms will be helping efficiency on one hand and making sure that the money doesn't go to anybody but them on the other hand.
Michael, they can't lose.
They can't lose, right? Don't look for your premiums to go down anytime soon.
No.
All right. Quickly, we're about to have some fun and games here, but quickly, I haven't heard from Rosemary and Devin in a while, so just to jibe in on this. Fun and games are already starting, but quick, Rosemary.
Okay, so I love when we bring up Medicaid expansion. Thank you, Mike. And I want to note that the 2 states with the biggest populations that have not yet expanded Medicaid are Texas and Florida. And so those are states that also have very sophisticated healthcare systems. So I like the way we're kind of meshing some of these ideas of what's happening in the private sector and, investment opportunity side, and then where we have still fallen short as a society for our most underserved people. And if we could marry up some kind of innovation and get that to drive us beyond the divisiveness, that would be amazing.
Well, there's aggressive action in one of those 2.
Ooh, Mike has a secret we haven't found out about. We'll switch to
Yeah, I don't have anything particularly salient to add on those points, but except that I just noticed that Ian just disturbed our Hollywood Square.
All right.
Popped right in.
All right, so Ian, you should come in and join our Hollywood Squares. We should have a couple of other guests coming in a second as well.
Yeah.
There we go. There's one. We're trying to go. Here we go. We're getting there now. So what we're doing now?
We're not gate crashing.
Do we have to all sing at the end, Matthew? Do we all have to sing at the end now that you're bringing everybody in?
Yes, of course. Why do you think I did this? We're all going to sing. So no, so we've been having there's Ian Morrison and Raj Agrawal. There should be a few others who claim they're going to be gate crashing at the end here. I thought for the last 10 minutes before we ended the year at THCB Gang, here's Kim Ballard coming on as we get a few more people on. I don't know how many we'll get to, but I thought for the last 10 minutes we'd have a bit of fun. And here's the Queen. Zoya Khan has arrived. We would have a bit of fun and go around and sort of think about what our big hope for the future is. All right. So as you all gate crashed. First, I'm going to put you on the spot. Ian, what's your big hope for 2021?
Oh, I think I want you all to stay safe for the next 6 weeks, right? Because I think it's going to be horrendous. And then the vaccines are coming and you take the vaccine, no arguments, and we'll all get back to normal in September next year. In the meantime, if you don't feel well, I have 2 cures for you. One is 16-year-old Lagavulin from Islay, where my heritage is from, and the Glasgow hangover cure that only Matthew will know is Iron Brew.
I know Iron Brew.
Iron Brew is fantastic.
One of the most disgusting beverages ever known to mankind, but it will save you from COVID until you get the vaccine. So all be well, be safe.
We knew the Iron Brew was the cure for COVID. All right, fantastic. And while we're waiting, James Harrison Khan, Jay Ricciardi, and Casey Quinn are all showing up. Fantastic. So we're just going a quick go around for our new gate crashers to give us what's it? Raj,
gate crashers, you invited us.
Well, you can be invited, gate crash. Raj, what's your hope for 2021?
My hope. It's a public service announcement. Let's all get vaccinated, but don't forget the mask. You wear the mask, the vaccine works better. And it's all to do with the spread, right? So wear a mask, please.
Wear a mask and drink Iron Brew. Kim, what's your hope for 2021?
Well, the big takeaway for 2020 was how fragile our country is. And I'm not just talking about the pandemic, but our democracy generally. So my big hope for 2021 is that we're going to get up off our knees and start to recover of what America used to be.
Ooh, big news. Casey, your hope for 2021?
Well, my hope for 2021 is that we finally stop admiring the problem and actually admit that we've never lived up to our promise. And we could if we start to address systemic racism and the original sin of racism in our country. But I also want a t-shirt that said, "I survived 2020, bitches," but I don't want it yet. I'm not ordering it until January 1st, 2021, because 2020 is still yelling, "Hold my beer."
I gotta say, Sachin Jain came out with his prediction for 2021, and they said you're being very brave putting it out, before the second half of December started. Lygeia, what's your hope, your forecast, your prediction, your hope?
I am so glad this year is almost over. And my hope is that as an industry, we in healthcare will continue to use all that we've been through this year on so many fronts as a catalyst for transformation, ongoing transformation. More virtual care, different kinds of payment models that are more value-based, and more patient-centric care.
I'm hopeful too. Jane.
Well,
lovely necklace, by the way. That's beautiful.
I have a red one too. I gave 2 speeches today to healthcare people, so I like wearing my hearts. So I like Ringo Starr a lot, and what he always says is the following, and I'm just going to say it: peace and love, peace and love, peace and love. That's what I want. I'm serious. So that's it.
Beautiful. Zoya, so great to have you back. Now you're a venture capitalist and probably almost too good for us. But anyway, just for those of you who haven't seen, Zoya joined Civilization Ventures a month ago, 3 weeks ago, recently.
3 weeks ago. It's my 3rd week.
And she's ready to write us all a check. Everyone can now put in an application. She will send you $500,000 Marcus will do the same thing next week. All right, Zoya, what's your hope for next year?
Honestly, just to reiterate what everybody said, is to continue to innovate. I want to, really see growth in the digital health sector, just because there's been so much money being poured into it. I was listening earlier, and as Jess was saying, there's just been just loads and sums of money being poured, and I wanted to go in the right direction. I want to see more investments in aging in place. I want to see more investments for the elderly population, who were truly, really not very taken care of during COVID-19 when the pandemic, or while this still goes on. But that's what I look forward to in 2021, and hopefully I can make a difference. So yes, please come bother me at Civilization Ventures, and I miss you, Matthew.
Only Matthew.
So let's do.
Of course, I miss all you guys too.
I'm not the only one she's missed. All right. So while we're doing that, quickly before we have to figure which song we're going to sing. I may make you all. I want to go. Let's have the same question to everyone who's been on the show today. So we haven't really asked this. What's your big hope for 2021, Robin?
So we start democratizing healthcare a little bit more and shifting it into the patient's home and replacing some of the interactions with artificial intelligence.
Michael.
Joe Biden spent a couple of months in the intensive care unit for when he had the glioblastoma, and has deep experience with being a patient, not just watching, obviously, his son in there and everything. And so I hope that kind of empathy combined with rationality sweeps through the healthcare system to reform not only access to care, but the safety and the quality, and yes, the AI and all the rest of it, that we really bring a rationality to the delivery of care in our healthcare system that we haven't seen, with empathy as well.
Jessica, 2021, what's your hopes?
Well, just like we see a lot of money pouring into health tech, digital health and things like that. It's money that's pouring in from VC and private equity and investors in that way. And I think what I would love to see in 21 are some good inroads made in how the incumbent organizations take that in and figure out how to pay for this stuff in like a real way, not a venture-backed way.
Like real business with venture capital?
Yeah, like real business. Like you do something, you get paid for it. Not like I can afford to lose money for 10 years. Like, no, I want to see some moves made to help make that happen. I want to see the incumbent orgs make some moves to make it possible for some of these different solutions that do offer up a different way for access or lower the cost of care. I want to see like some real traction made to fit this stuff in and pay for it in traditional healthcare payment model way.
Fantastic. Maggie, 2021.
I'm going with Jane and Ringo, peace and love, and I'm going to add hugs.
Peace, love, and hugs. Well, actually, so funnily enough, so talking about great African-American doctors, oh God, I'm having a brain fart for the name. She's been on this show. She's a good friend.
Give us a hint.
Manel Briggs. Manel Briggs was the first doctor. Manel Briggs, the first doctor at UCLA to get vaccinated. And I said, I see the light at the end of the tunnel, because in about 6 months' time, I'll be able to give her a hug. Right. Marcus, what's your hope for 2021? Other than that, you get your round closed before then.
Oh, I'm getting it closed tomorrow. That's not my hope for 2021. Other than peace on earth, I really want Spurs to win a trophy next year, man. Hey, Raj, I just want you guys to stay up. That's all I want you guys to do. Like, don't go down to the championship.
Oh man, we managed to get through 58 minutes without talking about football. And
exactly.
All right, who have I not got to yet? Rosemary.
My hope is that the pain that we have gone through with the pandemic and then the ongoing endemic of structural racism is not for naught, and that we will use this. My cause now is universal health care. It would go a long way toward addressing the ills, literally, in our society. And I hope that we can use the pandemic as kind of the forcing function to solve this longer term problem.
Mike.
Yeah, having been in the belly of the beast, I obviously appreciate the vaccine, but I've been trying to remind people that a silver bullet doesn't a health system make. And we still have to create a health system. And my hope is that Marcus, with his fund and others, will find a way of investing in programs that add to simplicity and equity and transparency and strategic planning, which we need desperately.
Devin.
Yeah, I sort of have two hopes. One is more societal, one is more personal. So the personal one is, yes, I need to get back to watching sports in person with other people and gathering with other people in bars to watch sports and maybe listen to some music too. So that's a personal hope for 2021. Too much solitude, more people.
It's actually worked well.
Yeah.
For an Eagles fan, it's worked well because you haven't had to watch the games this year.
Oh, right. No, that's true. I mean, really, all my teams have been struggling too. So on some level, it's been a little bit of a blessing to have it sort of be not something I had to painfully watch in person, but I still like it's just a part of being an American, man, is to be side by side and watching your team, and you just can't do that all by yourself. So, and then I'm with others that I hope that some of the sense of at least appreciation for what life is like in America for people who are not white will continue, even with the gaslighter in chief out of office.
Well, I mean, I'll close this section by saying my hope for 2021 is just that we begin to figure out how to, and I'm kind of bundling all what I said there. We want peace and love, but we also want how to do things rationally. And healthcare has been shown what the really bad thing could look like. The vaccine and science has come to save us, maybe, we hope so. But nonetheless, we've got the chance with hopefully a more rational administration and some rational conversation to really start figuring some stuff out that we have not done for a long time. I don't know how long Ian and I have been doing this, but Mike, some of the older white men on this thing have been hanging around far too long, and it's time for it to change. All right, so are we going to sing?
I thought you were handing out Christmas bonuses now.
Yes, you all get a massive percentage.
What on earth are we going to sing?
I've paid you so much. I was going to sing, "We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry."
Well, but then
wish you a
like
Merry
we didn't
Christmas.
sing the Hanukkah song.
Happy
like,
New Year.
Sorry, that's the British guy. It's the only song I know. All right.
The Old Lang Syne.
So I want to say to everyone. All right. Well, we're at 2:00. It's the end of the THCB gang. I want to thank all of my guests. I'm not going to name because I've got far too many.
500 of us showed up today.
There's been about 20 people on THCB gang over the course of the year. I've really enjoyed hosting them. We've had some amazing conversations. It's available as a podcast immediately after, the next day. And I hope all of you and some of the others who couldn't make it, they will come back and spend the Thursday afternoons with me. I really appreciate all of you coming. I really appreciate everybody's point of view and everybody's willingness to get in and chat and talk over itself and have fun. And look forward to doing this all starting again. And it'll be starting again on the first Thursday of January, whatever the hell the year that is.
That would be January 7th.
Thank you very much,
How about
Casey.
a cheer
You better come on that show to get me right.
Bye-bye. Happy
Bye,
holidays.
everybody.
Happy holidays.